Hey, welcome back, guys. We're excited that you're here. This is the Three Beardmigos. So I'm Andy. Depending on what your camera looks like, Josh is somewhere, and then Ben is over there. So
I'm over here.
See, on my screen, you're down there.
Yeah, but my screen's the one they see.
Yeah,
So I'm over there, and Ben's over there, and then
So
you're
I'm
down there.
must be nice.
All right, so my friends are up above me, I guess, since you're seeing that. I'm coming to you live from the tomb. We'll get to that here in a minute.
I'm coming to you live from the sky.
Just a floating
And
head. And then,
Still in front of this book, so I got really ripped off on this whole travel thing.
well,
You need to hire a new travel agent, man.
Yeah.
One day when you're cool, you can go visit places, but we'll send you on location at some point. So hey,
Share my location.
jumping into today's topic, I want to
And by the way, this is definitely not being recorded on the same day as the last podcast.
Andy just forgot to do laundry.
Yeah. As you can see, we're wearing different shirts. I have a different cup. This is definitely a different day. We're not doing back-to-back.
Disappears.
We would not do that to you.
I'm gone.
I'm totally wearing the same stuff.
You heard it here first. Andy does not do laundry.
I mean, my wife might agree, might disagree. It just depends on the day. So, but hey, jumping in, I want to talk about choke jobs, man. What are some of the biggest choke jobs? Sports, real life, whatever. What are some of the biggest choke jobs you can think of?
My first, when I hear the word choke job, I like to think back to when Reggie Miller put it to the Knicks with 8 points in like 6 seconds, and then gave the choke to Spike Lee.
That's a good one.
Beautiful.
I mean, that could be the. I'm telling you, Reggie Miller, top 5 best smack talkers in the history of basketball.
It was pretty legendary when he did that.
Maybe top 2 even. Him and Larry Bird.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like good stuff, man.
Well, I think of choke. I'm thinking of the easy one here, but you heard the memes about it for like 2 straight years. Warriors blew a 3-1 lead, but that really was such a big choke job because that team was put together to be such a powerhouse. They're out here breaking records, and then you get up 3-1, you can't blow that, and they blew it.
And
So they deserved all the memes.
had to go recruit Kevin Durant because they were so ashamed.
Right. Oh, that was with Kevin Durant, wasn't it?
No.
Was that the year before KD?
That was the year before they got KD. And then they were like, we need you, KD. We blew a 3-1 lead to LeBron. And he's like, okay, I'll take the hardest road.
KD, what a wiener. All right. So I have 2. Like the baseball fan in me wants to talk when the Yankees were up 3-0 against the Red Sox to go to the World Series. And the Red Sox came back to win to break the curse of the Bambino, if you believe in curses. But I think the one that we all secretly love, but we tell everybody we hate because of where we live, is when the Falcons had a 28-3 lead at halftime against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Like, I know, considering, I'm assuming we're all 3 some sort of Indianapolis Colts fans.
Ben's not. He's a traitor.
Ben, who do you root for?
Titans.
Why is he on this?
I don't know. If you're reading this, watching this, we need a new Beardmigo. So,
dude, I mean, I'm closer to Nashville than Indy, but I can't bring myself to root for the Titans.
Well, let's be fair. He was a Marcus Mariota fan.
Yeah, I love an underdog story. But that's true. I absolutely joined the Titans because I wanted a new team. And I was like, I'll just go with whoever drafts Marcus Mariota. So I could have just as easily been a Bucs or an Eagles fan because they all considered him too. So, but I like the Titans now. So that's where I'm at.
Your heart. But anyway, I guess we can.
By the way, no one had ever blown a 3-0 lead before, right? In the playoffs. Am I right on that in the MLB? Or am I wrong?
Nobody had ever done it. And the Red Sox
first time.
And got the Yankees. So those are probably the 2 biggest choke jobs in my head.
Yeah.
That's
well, could also go with the Virginia Cavaliers blowing it to a 16 seed.
Yep.
That's
2 years ago.
Who was the 16 seed?
UMBC, the Golden Retrievers.
Man,
That's a great mascot.
can we talk for a second about mascots? Because there are some, like, mascots to me are supposed to strike fear and be something prideful. And then you have Wofford, who are the Terriers.
I don't know if you saw it, but yesterday or this morning, I root for the Hoosiers, but I'm from Indiana, so I also like Butler.
Mhm.
And so I follow the Butler Bulldog like mascots, and they had a Zoom call with like 20 other dog mascots.
That's awesome.
So it's like just dogs staring at the computer screen, like 20 different dogs. It's
That's
adorable
hilarious.
Why are bulldogs such a popular mascot?
because
Because
they're
they're awesome.
adorable.
But they're not intimidating.
They
You know?
can't.
You know, there's not cats as mascots. I mean, there's like tigers and lions, but not like house cats.
But they're still cats.
Yeah, but like
But not
dogs
the cats that we're
are
thinking.
not like wolves. That's different.
So I went to Murray State for a couple of years before I transferred to Northern Iowa, which brings me
Nice.
to the choke job, but I'll come back to that in a second. Our fight song, or like one of the fight songs we had, was The Old Gray Mare. You know what song I'm talking about?
Yes.
The old gray mare, she ain't
What she used to be. Ain't what she used to be.
Oh,
Nothing strikes fear in the hearts of children like the old gray mare. But choke job, what about my boys at UNI taking out number 1 overall Kansas to go to the Sweet 16? Huh?
I was at that game.
It was a good day for me. I broke a coffee table. So,
Nice.
great day. Anyway.
But really, on all the choke jobs we've talked about, something cool is how a choke job can also lead to comebacks. Josh bringing up the Cavaliers, the Virginia Cavaliers, losing to a 16 seed, having to endure an entire year of ridicule because no one seed had ever lost to a 16 seed. But what did they go and do the next year?
They won the championship.
They won it all, man. So with choke jobs, there's also comebacks. And we're going to be talking a bit about both of those today because they're both pretty awesome in different ways. Josh,
If you have listened to our previous podcast right before this one, we kind of talked about a really bad day that was really good all at the same time, and Good Friday, and kind of what that means. And this is our follow-up to Good Friday. I don't know if you can see where I'm at right now, but I'm sitting in an empty tomb. Right, and so that's our focus today is the empty tomb. So, Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you, buddy.
Okay. Hello. That is me.
Hey,
So, as you can guess, we're talking about Easter, right? So, as we left Good Friday, Jesus is dead, right? They bury him in a tomb, and they roll a stone in front of it, and they have guards because they're afraid that they might try to steal Jesus' body.
Why would they do that?
Because sometimes people like to steal bodies back then as a symbol, as a like, it's weird. I don't quite get it, but it was a thing that happened. And so they post guards, whatever.
Partially it was that Jesus had talked about coming back.
True.
And so they thought that if, even if he didn't come back, if his body was gone, people would believe it. And so they wanted to make sure that nobody could get in to steal the body.
And so there was kind of a rush job on burying Jesus because of Passover and things. They buried him without doing some of the things that you're supposed to do. And so Mary and Mary Magdalene are coming to the tomb because they want to do some of the things they need to do with the body, perfumes and different things. And when they get there, they find that, the stone is no longer closed, that the tomb is open. And on top of that, there's nobody there. Right?
Could you imagine the straight fear that went into the Marys right there? I mean, they're already extremely upset over what they witnessed, 3 days ago. And
Because
then
one of these Marys is Mary Mama.
yeah, it's Mama Mary and Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
And so Mama and Mary are walking up to this tomb to prepare her son's body, right? And then they get there, and not only is the stone rolled away, the guards are kind of dispersed because they're freaked out. And the tomb is empty. And not only is the tomb empty, the burial cloth is just kind of neatly folded and set in the tomb, right? And so it's the amount of fear and anxiety that has got to be just racing through these ladies is crazy right now.
And you know what the underrated part about that is? I'm a guy who I don't fold laundry, you know, and I take some crap from that, from Emily and my mom. You know, I don't fold my laundry, but Jesus like raises from the dead, and he's like, oh, let me fold this and put it nicely down. You know, Jesus is just a good guy, just a good dude.
I also
you know?
wonder if there was thought into that. I wonder if there was some extra thought into that too, like for people to come in and see, hey, this was an intentional thing. Like if it were like ragging and just thrown off, they'd be like, whoa, did someone like just come and like take him? And he's just kind of like, I'm gonna fold this neatly, and people are gonna come in and be like, hold up, something's wrong, something's different here, you know?
Something fishy, yeah.
So slight moral here, kids, and some take home. Make your beds when your mama tells you to make your beds.
But I hope my mom doesn't watch this. So
Jesus made his bed.
Yeah. But on top of all of this, there's a random person, right?
One of my all-time favorite quotes. Why are you looking for the living the living amongst the dead?
Yeah, and you also get one of the famous quotes of, "He is not here. He is risen, just as he said. Come to the place where he lay." Right? Because this random person is not just a dude; it's an angel. Right? And so they go from maybe thinking that somebody had jacked the body of Mary's son to having this person say, why are you looking for the living among the dead? He's not here. He is risen just as he said, which I think is a really important point, guys. Jesus pulled a Babe Ruth, right? Jesus called his shot.
Oh, good reference. I like it.
Thank you, right?
The best one you've ever had, dog. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Right? It's one thing if for you to raise from the dead, but it's another thing to be like, I'm going to raise from the dead and actually do it. You know, Jesus has been saying this his entire ministry, right? That he's going to be killed, he's going to come back. And no one bought it, right? The disciples didn't buy it. Mary, his mom, apparently didn't buy it because they're all shook when it happens. Right? They're shooketh, but they're shocked. And so Mary and Martha, they run and they go tell Peter and John and the other disciples. And when they hear that,
I'm going to stop you real quick.
Okay, go ahead, interject.
I think we're missing a pretty big point.
Okay.
And this may be just my interpretation, and if it is, that's fine.
Hit me with it.
You just have to listen to me anyway. So, Mary and Martha, the angel says, hey, he's not here, yada, 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 go tell his peeps. And as he's going, they see this gardener. Not Mary and Martha, Mary and Mary, sorry. Mary and Mary, they see this gardener, and that gardener turns out to be Jesus, right?
Oh, yeah.
Jesus revealed himself to Mom and Mary. And I think there's a lot in that, the fact that the first people that he chose to reveal himself to wasn't men and wasn't his closest friends, right? It wasn't the disciples. It was his mother and then one of his better friends who happened to be a lady. And so I think this, again, is another way of Jesus showing that he didn't come for the powerful. right? He didn't come to be power, and he didn't come for that, because women at that time, they weren't thought very highly of. They were kind of an afterthought, property almost. And so for Jesus to reveal himself after this, to reveal himself to a woman, I think speaks volumes about his character and about what he was about.
Yeah. Everything he did was toward bringing love, bringing equality, bringing, that just shows exactly, once, like you said, to his character. It's a well thought move.
That to me is
To
huge.
be fair, also, that happened after John and Peter showed up.
But still,
Debate
the
time.
first people he revealed himself to.
Sure. I was just saying, you interrupted me, and I was going to get there. But it's cool. It's whatever.
Josh,
No.
we have to interrupt.
You don't have to interrupt me. You can let me talk.
Well, we hear you talk a lot, so and we'd like to get our stuff in too. Anyway, go back to your foot race.
Well, I'm just saying, it's one of the funniest passages of Scripture.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly.
Right? Because Mary, actually, it's Mary Mag, not Mary Mom. It gets a little confusing. There's two Mary.
Refer them as Mom and Mary now?
Sure. Mary.
Yeah, because Mary Mag just sounds weird. Like, what an unfortunate last.
I feel like you just called her a bad name or something. So.
Let's just call her the Mags. We got the Mom and the Mags.
Mom and Mags. So Mags goes back, and at this point, they don't know, right? And so she's like, the tomb is empty. And so Peter and John, and again, if you haven't read the Gospel of John, you should, just for lots of reasons, but also there's one part where John, with a little bit of Ferrari and not donkey, refers to himself as the one whom Jesus loves.
He leaves nothing to be to the imagination as to where he thought he ranked among the disciples.
Yeah, like he refers to himself anytime he's in there as the one whom Jesus loved. So apparently Jesus didn't love Peter, but he loved John.
He may have loved him nowhere near as much.
But John and Peter have a foot race. And John just leaves this little humble brag that it was the one whom Jesus loved that got there first. He says, and Simon Peter came along behind him. So,
Jesus, and
Jesus,
by the way, I absolutely would have done the same thing there. I would have been like, by the way, we ran there. We had to get there fast, and I got there faster. Just everyone knows that. I just toasted.
The one who Jesus loves runs a 4:40. So
yeah. He's panting by the time he gets there. I'm ready for another one. Let's go.
Sign him up for the combine. That man's going to the NFL. That's what's happening here.
Yep.
So, at this point, the only people who have seen Jesus are Mary Magdalene, right? And so, Jesus shows up to see his apostles. And Jesus is a guy who likes the dramatic entry, apparently, right?
He knows how to make an entrance.
In John chapter 20, you can read this in verse 19. On the evening of the first day of the week, when the disciples were together with the doors locked,
Can't get in.
Leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Right? Jesus just straight up walked through a wall, guys. So he's like, "Hello."
Which spawns one of the greatest jokes of all time. Do you think the disciples saw up Jesus?
Huh?
What's up, Jesus? And then Jesus is like, hey, nothing. What's up with you?
Wow.
There's my dad joke for the day, fellas.
Yes. Oh, man. Did Josh just leave?
I'm here.
Oh, I thought I heard a door shut. I was like, Josh just really just got up and left. Like, I can't deal with it right now.
Right, but this also leads to one of the more important encounters, I think, of Jesus's post-resurrection tour, right? Because Jesus shows up to the apostles, but there's a particular apostle who isn't there. His name is Thomas. And so Thomas shows up, and all the other guys are like, hey, Jesus is alive. We saw him. And again, I want to preface this by saying Jesus called his shot, right? He'd been saying this for years. But Thomas still doesn't quite believe him. And he says famously, unless I put my hands where the nails were and, touch his scars, I won't believe it. And so then Jesus rolls up again. And he has Thomas stick his hand in his hole in his side, which is gross, but also cool, right? And Thomas believes.
Hey, so in my interpretation, yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't be talking right now. Maybe that's a sign. I look at this a little differently than a lot of people do, and I may be wrong, and I'm maybe okay with that. But I look at this as Jesus is almost being like that father to Thomas, to where he's almost scolding him, like, hey, you wanted to see it, look at it. I feel like there's probably some frustration in there because everybody else believed, but he had.
To be fair, they believed it when they saw it.
Right. But I mean, but Jesus, like, blessed are the ones who believed without seeing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of, I would say there's a little scolding there.
So, but yeah, when I see this story, I just think of Jesus. Look, there it is. Touch it. Just do it. I think of Turner at home and, hey, can I see this? Can I see this? Can I see this? No. Can I see this? Can I see this? Can I see this? And then I'm fine, like, just go do it, okay? Just do it. And I kind of lose my cool for a second. And so
Thomas really gets a bad rep from this because we've all heard someone called a doubting Thomas at some point. It's just funny to me. It's like there's like one part of his life, and that's just what he's known as now, And it's like fair enough that he definitely put in his place for needing to believe, but also once again, I think that's a relatable character because there's so many people out there who will be like, I've been heartbroken this whole time. I'm not about to believe something until I can. I don't want to be set up to be hurt again. And I think a lot of us definitely would have been in that situation too. But I definitely also could see how Jesus is getting a little sarcastic there. Like, okay, yeah, like, you know what? Here you go. Look at this. It's me.
Yeah, I think Thomas gets a bad rap. I think more than a doubter, I think he's sarcastic. And I say that because if you go back to the Lazarus episode, not that we have an episode on Lazarus, but in the Bible.
I was like, wait.
You guys weren't there. You weren't there for that one, man.
You weren't there for that one?
Yeah.
So, but if you go back and look at the story of Lazarus, when, he's telling his friends that the disciples that Lazarus died and they're going to go there, like, the people where they were at were looking to kill Jesus. And I think Thomas would have followed Jesus wherever and would do whatever Jesus wanted. But then Jesus is like, well, let's go, and we're going to go, take care of them. And Thomas is like, well, let's just all go so we can die together. Right? So, I mean, he catches a bad rap, but I feel like there's a little bit of Thomas in almost everybody.
I mean, there's Thomas and me. Like, in sports, man, I don't believe my team is going to win until the buzzer sounds. Like, you'd be up 20 points, and I'm like, we're still going to blow it. I don't believe. Mm-hmm. I need to see the win call.
Look at the Falcon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we also want to talk about – so that's kind of like people's reactions to Easter. But I think we would be doing you a disservice if we didn't talk about what Easter means for us. Because Easter is the game changer, right? Easter is the thing that makes everything matter for us, right? Even the Bible is pretty clear that if Jesus wasn't resurrected, then everything we believe is meaningless. We're wasting our time.
Yep.
And so why is that, right? Why is Easter so important for us? One of you guys want to take a crack at that?
I mean, the foundation of our faith is Easter, right? If
Yeah.
Jesus didn't resurrect, then we have nothing to celebrate because there's been nothing to bring us closer to the Father. Death has not been conquered. We still have punishment coming. And so, I mean, Easter is that symbolism of new life, right? How we can be adopted or born into God's family again.
And I think Easter is really important for one reason that we often don't think about, because we think about like the resurrection and the death, which is really important. But if Easter,
Oh, I know. I got it. I know what you're thinking.
okay,
It's the Cadbury eggs, right?
no, no, stop.
He's talking about peeps, Andy.
Yes,
The little
peeps. No,
marshmallow things.
here's the thing, right?
Oh, you ever microwaved a peep?
No.
Yeah.
Entertainment. It's entertainment.
Okay, but back to the really important part about Easter. It's not peeps or Cadbury eggs, right? Easter is the proof that Jesus, one, is who he says he is, and two, that he wasn't a liar, right? Because we talked about it before. Jesus was Babe Ruth. He was calling a shot. And if you call your shot and you don't hit it, you look like an idiot. You're a liar, right? If Jesus wasn't raised from the dead, then everything he said, we couldn't believe. Everything he said about God, everything he said about himself, everything he said about how we should live. Easter is the ultimate proof that he is who he says he is, and that what he says is truth. If every other religion in the world, we can point to, we know where Muhammad's buried, right? We know where King David is buried, or there's a tomb for him, right? We know where like Buddha lived and died, right? You know where all these religious leaders are. There's a tomb or a place associated with their body. Jesus is alive, right? Jesus is living. He's still alive. He conquered death. And that proves that he is who he says he is. And that's
Right, because there have been a lot of fantastic people throughout history. There have been a lot of, we study about them in our history classes that we learn about. We hear about these great, amazing people, and we look at people like that weren't perfect, but you look at someone like Martin Luther King or Gandhi, or people you see about and you're like, that was an amazing person. And in a lot of ways, if I make myself more like them, I'd be a much better person and the world would be a better place. But just because these people are amazing people, that's not someone that you follow with your entire life. That's not someone that you look at everything they did as how my life should be. And you could go through that with just about anyone you've ever looked up to. And Jesus made that distinction there, and that he is someone you build your entire life around, because he showed that he was more than just a really great guy. Because a lot of people think that. A lot of people think, yeah, Jesus was a real person. He was a historical figure. He was a great guy who lived and who died. And a lot of people leave it there. And but Easter shows that he was so much more than that, that is someone you want to follow. And then also, once we talked about, what's the importance of this Easter thing. Jesus coming back, that showed good one. Yeah. We didn't lose there on that day when he died on Friday. So
yeah, death choked, right? Going back to the choking thing, right? Death had a 3-day lead, and Jesus came back.
Well, and thought that he had it in the bag.
Yeah, and the Bible is pretty clear that Jesus arose with the keys to death and hell in his hand, right? And now for us who are in Christ Jesus, death, where is your sting? Right? Hell, where is your victory? Right? That's a beautiful verse and a beautiful song that we sing, right? Jesus conquered death, and now you and I get to enjoy resurrection from the dead, because Jesus has conquered death, and death is no longer the final enemy, right? We still die, but there's not the eternal death of separation from God that we were under, the penalty, right? It's just so important for us to understand these things.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that death, where is your sting? Chapter 15 in 1 Corinthians is typically known as the resurrection chapter. And so just there's a lot of goodness within this letter that Paul wrote. Just in the death, where is your sting? Like we on earth, when we lose somebody, like when my grandmother died, or we have friends that die or whatever, like and they're assuming they're believers, we have that sting here. They're not feeling any sting. They're waiting for Jesus to return. Right. And we feel that loss because I can't call my grandmother, I can't call this person anymore when I need them. So we're hurting, but they're not. There is celebration going on with them. So I think that sums up Easter. Like without that, there would still be sting. But because of this, because of the win that we have, because of the ultimate choke job of choke jobs, we don't have that sting of death. We die and then we're home. Like our citizenship is not in the United States or in England or wherever it is that you're watching this. If you're a Christian, your citizenship is heaven, right? And that is the victory. And that one day when we die, we go home and we are finally met with our King, and life is good.
Yep. Any closing thoughts, guys, on Easter?
Yeah, so my big takeaway from Easter this week, and there's a lot of fun that comes with Easter, right? There are Easter egg hunts,
Reese's peanut butter eggs. Oh,
those are disgusting. But I mean, this is as a kid. Let's look at it from a kid's perspective, and I'm going to kind of use this in my sermon. Easter is the it holiday, right? Like Halloween, you have to work for candy. Easter, it just shows up for you. Grandparents bring you candy. You find candy, Easter eggs, all of that stuff. But Jesus is so much sweeter than the candy because of what it means. You eat a piece of candy, and 5 seconds later, that taste is out of your mouth, and all you have is a memory of it. Right?
And calories.
I mean, if you see my stomach, there's
calories don't exist. It's fine.
But I think that Jesus, there's a long lasting with that. The fact that you can have that relationship with him, and you can talk with him, and eventually you go home to be with him. That's so much sweeter than any candy you can get. And so there should be excitement when it comes to Easter because of the hope that comes with that. So that's my closing thought.
Yeah, I mean, I love the message of bouncing back. It's going to get better. Your highs would not be highs without the lows existing, right? Without things going bad, without times in our life where we hit rock bottom, the highs where we bounce back and where things feel amazing, they just wouldn't be the same. And we spent a whole lot of time talking about Good Friday, talking about the crucifixion, talking about the cross, talking about what Jesus went through, because it's so important that we understand just how low that low was, how bad things were, and just how much of a huge bounce back that was from the worst day to the best day, when it really comes down to it. And so every year, Easter means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I think something you need to look at and realize is that where you're at in life, when things get rough, there's a bounce back coming. Especially if you've got Jesus leading your life, he's the king of the comeback, right? We could talk for hours about all the amazing comebacks that have happened in sports and all the amazing comebacks that have happened in people's lives when they've went from nothing to something, or when they've bounced back from their struggles to something good. This is the king of the comeback, the lowest of the low to the highest of the high. And it's a yearly reminder, but it's something we can take in so much more, that I think we need to remind ourselves so much more, is that there's something better waiting, and that it's going to come to those who follow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When I think of Easter, I just think of victory. I mean, it's just victory. Victory over death, victory over sin, victory over Satan, victory there's nothing sweeter than victory, right? When your team wins, when the cause that you're rooting for wins, it's so great. And this is the victory of victories, right? Death is beaten. Sin is broken. Hell has no power. Jesus is alive. Everything that happened on Good Friday, Jesus bounced back. He's alive. And he lives inside of us. Guys, we hope you have a great Easter with your family, with your friends, social distancing, etc. Yeah, safe. We hope you get some good time, and we hope that you can draw nearer to God. We love you. Hope you have a great Easter.
Later, guys.